every day. When the Father says, you are not to be drunk, do you understand? That is absolutely wrong to be drunk. When the Father says you are not to have sexual relations with someone to whom you are not married, you don't throw that away as out of date, out of step, unrealistic, not for me, not something I like. It is the Father's word. When the Father says you are not to steal, you don't say, oh yeah, but you don't work for my boss and you're not underpaid like me, and on and on and on. Listen, it is a line in the sand. We're not talking about perfection. We're talking about intention. Are you committed to being obedient to the Father? Now, you notice sometimes that when Jesus would talk, people would get up and walk away. This is the point where many people say, ain't going there. I'll sit on the pew on Sunday morning. But not this Jesus is Lord business where I'm in obedience to everything He says. Charlotte and I went to this restaurant the other night, and it was one of those, a nice place, but it was one of those places where you stand in this line to make your order, and there were all these meats, and everything was kind of grilled. And so I'm looking at this shrimp, I'm thinking, I would be, and then they offer like 4 or 5 different kinds of toppings, and that's a decision to make. And then there are the sides, and that's a decision to make. Do you know, as a customer, I've got the right to make that decision if I can pay for it. I don't have to get chicken. I don't have to get roast beef. Now, everybody else in the restaurant, they may say, we don't like shrimp, and I can order shrimp if I want to order shrimp. But you understand, walking with the Lord is not like that. It's not like where you go through the Bible and you say, ooh, I like that. He promises encouragement and comfort and joy. What? That is so ridiculous. Next page. Oh, look here. He answers our prayers. He helps us in times of stress. Oh, look here. He says don't lie. Well, sometimes you got to lie. This is not a restaurant where we pick and choose from Jesus. This is where we surrender to Him. So the first thing I want to do is thinking about family is not to start with my immediate family or even my extended family, but to start with the first family. Jesus Himself. Now let's wrap this up. Here are some implications. Number one, my relationship to God in my first family precedes that of my own family. My relationship to God in my first family precedes that of my own family. In plain English, if you're a dad and you want to be this awesome dad and you love your kids, the number one thing you do is, first of all, consider your own obedience to Jesus. Then start thinking about those kids. If you're married and you want a good marriage, the number one thing you do is not start working on your marriage. The number one thing you do is deal with your relationship in the first family and ask yourself, am I presenting an obedient husband? I mean obedient to God, an obedient husband or wife to my spouse. Number two, the primary call of my first family is to obey God. That is the primary call. The primary call of my first family is to obey God. Number three, marriage is being called to love God's child. Have y'all noticed that you really pay attention to how other people treat your children, those of you who have children? Oh my goodness. I mean, all you have to do is see your child being mistreated and the hackles come out. Do you know that when you got married, guys, when you got married, you married a daughter of God? And her father is very concerned with how you treat, I'm talking about her heavenly Father, is very concerned about how you treat his daughter. Your father-in-law, God, is very concerned about how you treat his daughter. We love our sons-in-laws, but nothing gives me more joy than when I see our sons-in-law treat their wives well. But I'll tell you, the reverse would be true, wouldn't it? And women, you've married these men. You've married this. This is God's boy here. This is God's son, God's child. Your father-in-law is concerned with how you treat. So one of the things I want to, before I start, there's a certain way I ought to treat Charlotte that is worthy of who she is as God's daughter. For me to talk to her in a way where I'm smart-aleck, sarcastic, constantly putting down. I don't know about you, if you've got sons-in-laws or daughter-in-laws, but that doesn't sit well with me if that's happening to my daughter. And I'm going to tell you, that doesn't sit well with God. When he sees that we're treating his child that way. So one of the things I want to do as I think about investing in my family is to ask, how am I treating God's daughter or God's son? And finally, for a parent, I'm wanting to raise a child to love God and love others. Folks, let us get to the point. When we hear that, here's the message that keeps coming through loud and clear in this culture. It comes through, I hear this all over Waco. I hear this in other places, that the main point of raising a child is that they're happy. Well, that's what it's all about, isn't it? They're happy. Well, obviously, I like my kid. Yeah. But that's not the main point. The main point is I want my child to love God and love others. Now, I really do believe happiness is a byproduct of that. But I don't want to raise a child who gets all A's in school and flunks life. Okay, we're going to stop right here and we're going to pick up next week. We will work with this all through August, and what I'm trying to do is just for us to think about how we start our school year, okay? So today, what I'd like to ask you to do as you go home is to think about, where are you investing? Or in what are you investing? Years from now, when your children talk about you and somebody says, "What was important to your dad?" I might want to think about what they'll say. I kind of know what I hope my children would say. But I'm telling you, where I put my money, where I put my energy, and where I put my time is going to say a whole lot about what's important to a mom or a dad. So let's think about where we're investing. So, as we go home, let's think about these, and we'll give you a couple. Think for a moment about your own obedience before the Lord. I mean, again, we're not talking about perfection. I know that. The grace of God, thank goodness, handles the imperfection and all of our goofiness and sin. But I'm talking about intention. Do I intend to obey Jesus, or have I decided that I've got a right to certain behaviors? Whatever that would be. Now, second, think about the investment I'm making as a parent and in my marriage. Okay? You say, let me go ahead and play. You say, well, are you suggesting I'm not a good parent? No, I'm not suggesting that at all. I'm suggesting that sometimes, in fact, quite often, some of us are investing in good things and not the best things. And I want to encourage you to think about that. Are we investing in what is lasting, eternal for this child? Or is it just something good? Okay? We think about that, pray about that this week. We'll come back next week and continue to work with this, okay? We're going to sing, if you'd like, the prayers of our shepherds. Some will be at the back, and I encourage you to go back there and pray with them. I want to encourage you, if you just need to pray about your own relationship with God, or you need to pray about a particular child or your marriage, while we sing, if you would just bow your head and just pray to the Lord for a moment while we're singing, okay? Let's stand for a moment and let's sing together.